Hey everyone, welcome to today's live English pronunciation training where I'm going to be answering your questions on how to speak English more clearly and more confidently so you feel better when you're speaking English. Okay, so thanks everyone who's joining live. Thanks everyone for being here right at the start of today's live training. I'm really looking forward to answering some of your questions and helping you to feel more confident and speak more clearly in English. So let's get right to it. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments. Hey Indu, thanks for tuning in. How you doing? Hi Antonio, how's it going? Khalil, good to have you here. I'm good, thank you. How are you? Maurice, hi Maurice, good to have you here. Welcome. Good to have you on the live training today. Thanks very much everyone who's joining live and watching. If you have any questions on how I can help you to speak more clearly and feel more confident, then go ahead and put them in the comments. And I'm looking forward to getting started. Okay. Hi, who's just said hello on the comments? Hi, KK. Good to have you here. Welcome back. Thanks everyone who's coming back for another live pronunciation training. Hey, Basma, how you doing? Welcome to today's live training. Alberto's here. Great. Alberto, good to have you here. Thanks for coming in today. Looking forward to speaking to you as well in about an hour's time. Cool. Okay. So what are some questions that we've got about difficulties you're having in your English pronunciation? What are some sounds that you find confusing that you'd like me to explain the difference between? What are some things maybe to do with how English flows or this kind of thing? What can I help you with to help you speak English more clearly and more natural and more like a native? Hey Mary, great to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. Asma, good to have you here as well. Thanks for coming in. Thanks everyone who's commenting and saying hi. I'm looking forward to answering some questions. Grace, good to have you here too. Paolo, great to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. Christy as well. And Ajin, good to have you here. So just whilst I wait for some questions to come in, the whole reason why I'm teaching these live pronunciation trainings is to help you to feel more confident when you're speaking English, specifically at work, in meetings, in presentations, and in job interviews. If you are a professional and you need clear spoken English for your career, to develop your career, then pronunciation is one of the main ways that you can feel more confident when you speak and really get the respect that you deserve as a professional. Because if you're speaking clearly and sounding natural, then you're going to really be able to focus on conveying your value as a professional in English. And it's going to make whoever you're talking to enjoy talking to you much, much more if you're really clear and easy to understand. Okay, so that's why I'm teaching this live pronunciation training. That's why I run my private coaching program for professionals who really need clear spoken English to progress their careers. If you want to know anything more about my coaching program, just go to howtospeakenglishclearly.com. Everything you need to know about how I can help you to achieve your desired spoken English is here. But for today, I just want to give some really good value for free, answer as many questions on pronunciation as possible. So I'm ready to answer the first question that comes in. I'll tell you what I might do first of all is let me just teach something that I think would be really useful. Something I've been teaching. Oh, okay, now I'll come back to that because Mal has just asked a question. So, Trisha, great to have you here watching, by the way. And Ritu as well. Viravalu, good to have you here. So, Mal has asked, how do you pronounce the combination dra? As in dread or jewellery? Okay, good question. So, there's two. So the question is, how do you pronounce words that begin with DR in English? Like this. I'm just going to write this with a pen here so you can see what we're talking about. DR words like dread. Okay, like this here. Okay. Now, Depending on which dictionary you look in, there are two ways that you might see this word being pronounced. The first way is with a D and an R sound, dr, dr, dr. The second way is with more of a J sound, as in John, okay? And that could well be followed by a R sound as well, all right? The most common way you're likely to hear it being pronounced is d-r, okay? So with the two sounds D and R, and the reason why it's important to get this correct is because if you don't have the English R sound in your language, which you probably don't, then that can already be a very challenging sound to get right in English. So it's very important to be able to get that right after the D sound in that position, okay? So let me just show you how you make the dr consonant combination right now, okay? The first thing is to make sure that my D, the tip of the tongue, is touching the roof of my mouth like this. Okay. D, 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 d. It's very important to get the D sound right from the beginning. And then the second thing, and it's actually, the good thing is, all you need to focus on to get the R sound right after the D is to take your tongue away from the alveolar ridge where it's touching the roof of the mouth. So, d, 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 d. You just pull your tongue back into your mouth slightly, and then you start to round your lips and bunch your lips up. So I'm going to make the consonant combination, just as here, very quickly first. Then I'll show you how it sounds in a word. So, dra, dra, do, 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 do. Can you hear that sound, that do, do, where the tongue pulls back from the D sound? Do, 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 do. And then we go into the R sound from there. Dra, dra, dra. For example, dry, 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 dry. Okay, or as the question was here was dread, 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 dread. Now, you might hear this being pronounced with more of a J sound as well, okay, which would be a D and then a Z sound, as in beige, okay, dream, 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 all right. In that scenario, again, the tongue is pulling back in the mouth just as it is for the R sound. Do, G, do, G, do, G. Okay. And it's as simple as that. So does that answer the question? A few examples of where you might hear this would be dread, dry, dream, dream, dream. I've just had a dream. And also, what would another example be? Dreadful. Okay, what happened was dreadful. All right, Mal, excellent. I'm glad that's answered the question. Good stuff. Okay, cool. So I just had a question come in about shadowing in English. I'm just going to try and see what that was. Now everyone who's watching this on Facebook, Paolo, you've said that the writing is backwards. Unfortunately, you're absolutely right. The Facebook app, I've tried streaming this on different cameras before, and whichever way I do it, the writing always comes up back to front. That's why today I'm going to try not to do too much writing. Okay, I want to do more visual explanations with the mouth. Okay, but thanks, Paolo, for just bringing that to my attention so I can let everyone know. Trisha has asked, is shadowing effective for pronunciation? So first of all, let me just explain what shadowing is for those who don't know what shadowing is. And this is a really, really good question, Trisha. Okay, shadowing is the process of listening to something in English and then speaking out loud at the same time and repeating what you're hearing. So if I'm listening to a podcast and the person is saying, hello, how are you? At the same time that I'm hearing that, I'm then repeating it. Hello, how are you? So is it a good method for achieving your pronunciation or improving pronunciation? The answer is yes, in combination with pronunciation trainings like my pronunciation videos, all right? So why is shadowing effective? It's because it trains you to hear the rhythm and the stress of English. When I was learning Portuguese and Japanese, I spent a long time shadowing myself, and I would listen to podcasts and I would repeat out loud what I was hearing. And I would repeat the same podcasts again and again and again until I could memorize the sounds that and the speech that I was hearing. And even though I was doing that 7 or 8 or even 9 years ago now, some of these things that I learned, I could still remember and recite to you now. So why is that beneficial? It's beneficial because what it was training me to do was to recognize and to feel how a native speaker speaks the language. So if I'm learning Japanese, the way that Japanese is spoken, its rhythm and the way the language actually feels is very different to how English feels. That's why even if I've got good Japanese pronunciation, I might still sound very English when I'm speaking Japanese. That's why shadowing is very effective. But where it's not effective is if you can't recognize the sounds that you're hearing. So for example, in English, a lot of people find the E and the I sounds difficult. For example, feet and fit. If you can't hear the difference between those two sounds, and as a result, they just sound like one sound to you, shadowing isn't going to teach you the difference between those two sounds. That's what you need specific tutorials for, which is what I put on YouTube and also a little bit on Facebook. Okay, so Trisha, I highly recommend doing shadowing. I think it's excellent. It's a really good way to learn new vocabulary and also learn to get a feel for how English is spoken. I recommend doing that in addition to actual sound and pronunciation training, because the one thing that shadowing also doesn't do is it doesn't teach you why you're hearing things. The reason why I created my coaching program course is so I could show you why English is spoken like it is and why the sounds are like they are and why, like how connected speech works, how intonation works, all of these things, because shadowing can help you to recognize it and to just get used to it, hearing it. But if you then want to know actually how to do it yourself and really learn the rules behind it and why it happens, that's why I created my coaching program. And also that's why I put my free tutorials on YouTube. Okay, so if anyone's interested, shadowing is very, very useful. I do recommend it in combination with pronunciation training. And if you want a complete step-by-step guide, if you're a professional and you really need clear spoken English for your career, for university, for your job, for your degree, anything like that, then head to howtospeakenglishclearly.com, howtospeakenglishclearly.com, and a comprehensive coaching program is here to help you achieve those results. Okay? So, Trisha, great question, and thank you very much for asking. Now, let's just see, because quite a few questions have come in. So, by the way, thanks everyone for watching. I know we've got people watching from all around the world, the Philippines, here in London, in Southeast Asia, I think in Nigeria as well. Okay, so let's just see what else we got. Cool. How's everyone finding this so far? Alex, welcome back, Alex. Good to have you here. Could I explain if a diphthong I in my consists of. Okay, okay. Alex has asked a really good question. I'll answer this one right away. Yeah, I'll answer Alex's question right away. Okay. And then Abdul, I'll answer your question next about if I can recommend a podcast. So Alex has asked about the I diphthong, as in I am Michael. This is my pen. This is my I, okay, and I see because I've got sight. The I diphthong, okay. This can be a confusing diphthong because the phonetic spelling of the diphthong makes it look like you have an a sound and then an I sound, all right? And that's not correct, all right? When I've worked one-to-one with clients who have already watched different courses and all this kind of stuff and not got the results they want to get, often when they've learned the I diphthong, they pronounce it like an I, okay, with an a sound. It's not an a sound. It's more like an sound, as in up, okay? So one way that I want you to think about the I diphthong, I'm going to give you two ways to think about it, okay? The first way is to think that it starts with the sound, as in up, okay? And when you say up, you close your mouth. So when you say this diphthong, I, that's what I want you to do. I want you to start in the position and then go up in your mouth. I, okay? It's not an R, it's not I, it's not that. Technically, it's not an it's close to but it's not actually an But that it doesn't really make a difference. It's much easier to think of this sound as an and if you say it like an you're going to get good pronunciation of it. So I recommend starting in an position, or maybe slightly further forward if you can. And then I recommend smiling. Okay, there are 3 diphthongs in English that end in the I sound. And I call these 3 diphthongs smiling diphthongs. And the reason why I call them smiling is if I say I, or a, or oi, I can make a smile as I make each of these diphthongs, all right? Each of these 3 diphthongs that ends in an E starts lower in the mouth, which means that you're moving up as you say them, and then the I sound is a wide sound in English. I. So, I. Can you see how it looks like I'm making a bit of a smile? I. Okay? So, that's it. A couple more bonus tips with the diphthong, okay? 1, put the stress on the first part of the diphthong. There's 2 sounds in a diphthong. In this one, it's like and I. Put the stress on the first one, I. Can you hear how in that diphthong is louder than I? It's not I. It's the other way round. I. Okay? So put the stress on the first one. And the second thing is, if your native language doesn't have long vowel sounds like English does, these can be very challenging for you, okay? Diphthongs should last the same length as long English vowel sounds. So if I say, for example, feed, there's a long English vowel sound in there, E, feed. That's compared to fid, which is really short. So we want the diphthongs to be the same length as a long English vowel sound. I, my. In terms of length, it's my. It's not ma. Okay, so everyone, is that clear with the I diphthong? This is very important because the I diphthong, we use it all the time whenever we talk about ourselves. I'm Michael, I teach pronunciation, I live in London, I have a pen, I have a glass. We use it all the time. And another reason why it's important is if you're going to a job interview or doing a presentation and you're introducing yourself in English, you're going to be saying I'm Michael, I'm from England. You know, you're going to be using this a lot. So if you want to make a good first impression and sound clear and natural in English, I is a very important diphthong to get right. Okay. So yeah, in my course, the one I've mentioned a moment ago, I cover this sound in a lot of detail, and I show you how to put it into all possible ways of using it in English. For example, I'll be there at 6. I'm going. I'd like to do something, because we use I in lots of contractions. I will. I did. These kind of things. Okay. So very useful. Let's just see the comments that are coming in. Alex, does that answer the question for you? Alicia, good question. I answered this very question on last week's live pronunciation training. Alicia has asked about the pronunciation of the words world, word, and bird. Alicia, I taught these very words on last week's live training, so go and watch that. Okay, there's very comprehensive training on that, but also on YouTube I have got other tutorials. I think I've got 2 or even 3 tutorials on YouTube teaching this sound in those kind of words. Okay, so I won't teach it more here. Just go back and watch last week's live and you get the answer there. Okay. Another question came in. I didn't see who it was by. Who was it by? How's everyone finding this so far? Just let me know. Mao asked another question, which is a good question. This is good for everyone. Okay. Mao asked, what is the difference between intonation and stress in words? Really, really good question. Okay. I'm going to answer that question now. If you want to learn intonation, I taught intonation also on my live training from last week. So I recommend that you watch that. And again, if you want step-by-step masterclass for intonation, I've got a very, very comprehensive, complete course on it here. What is the difference between intonation and stress? I'm going to demonstrate this for you to make it really clear. Okay. Intonation is whether you go up or down, or down and up, or up and down. No. Okay. We use intonation to convey meaning in English without having to say more words to express that emotion. Okay. So we use intonation to express emotion and meaning in English. And it's to do with whether you go up in words or down in words, or you go up and down, or you go down and up. For example, if I'm asking a question, I could go either up in the question or down in the question. If I'm talking and I want to express certainty in English, I'll use a downward intonation. Let me explain or demonstrate. I'm Michael. I'm Michael. I'm Michael. Can you hear how my intonation went down at the end? I'm Michael. Okay. Something else. I live in London. I live in London. Can you hear I'm using a downwards intonation? That intonation implies certainty and finality as well. I won't talk about finality now because that's more in depth, but certainty. If you want to sound assertive and confident in English, it's good that you use a downwards intonation because it implies to the person that's listening to you that you're certain about what you're talking about. Let me just compare that to if I was not sure what I was talking about. If you said to me, "What's your name?" and I said, Michael, down, up. Okay, can you hear the difference? If I say, "I'm Michael," compared to "I'm Michael," one of them sounds like, "This is who I am, I'm Michael, and I know what I'm talking about." And the other one implies, "I think my name's Michael, but I'm not sure." So intonation gives emotion and meaning to what we're saying without having to say additional things. And just a bonus tip here on intonation. In communication, intonation is more powerful than what we're actually saying. Because if you're saying something, I think I forget the numbers. I think that's about 8% of communication. It's not much. What's much more important in communication is how you say it in terms of the intonation that you use. Intonation is very, very important if you really want to be communicating very effectively and very subtly. Okay, that's why in my course I've covered it very comprehensively, because if you've already got clear pronunciation, intonation will take you from sounding clear in English to being a very, very effective communicator in English. All right, so that's intonation. Stress, there's two kinds of stress in English. Okay, every word in English will have one stressed syllable. For example, this here is water. I'm going to say the word again, and I want you to tell me, where is the stressed syllable in this word? Water. Is the stressed syllable war or ta? Just leave a comment quickly saying, is it on war or ta? Let me see what we've got here. Anyone, war or ta? Okay. Okay, Zenny. Hey, Zenny, thanks for tuning in. Good to have you here, Zenny. Zenny is correct. And KK is also correct. And I wonder if that's because both of Zenny and KK are in my course, so they've learned this. The stress is on war, the first syllable, war. Okay. Let me say it again for everyone that said ta. Okay. Water. Water. Can you hear how war is louder and it lasts for longer than ta? Water. One way to feel this, if you're having trouble hearing it, is to take your hand and put it in front of your mouth and say the word water, water. Put your hand about an inch in front of your mouth. Water, water, water. What you'll feel is much more airflow comes out your mouth on the war syllable. Okay, so that's a good way to recognize where is the stress syllable. We use stress in words to help make the words clear, because English has a lot of very long words, all right? And it helps to, because English is a stressed language, it helps to make English flow by having stressed and unstressed syllables, all right? It's very important, if you want to speak English naturally, to stress the right syllables, because if you're not stressing any syllables, or you're stressing the wrong syllables, then it might sound like you're saying different words to what you're wanting to say, and it just makes English hard to understand. And just I understand this because I had this difficulty myself when I was living in Brazil and learning Portuguese. I didn't understand at one stage that if there was an accent above a vowel, it meant that you stressed that syllable. So in the word you, which is você, você in Portuguese, I would always stress the wrong syllable and it made me sound very unnatural. Okay, so the same applies to English. You want to be stressing the right syllables in words. That's the first kind of stress. The second kind of stress, and this is the important kind, or this is even more important, okay? This works very nicely with intonation in making you an ultra effective English speaker, okay? In every piece of English I speak, there's going to be some words that are important and other words that aren't important. An exercise I gave to my coaching community the other day, where I analysed their feedback of this, was I gave them the exercise to say, what do you think about it? Okay, what do you think about it? So in that word, in that phrase, there's what do you think about it? There's 6 words there. Okay, what do you think about it? All right. Now, let me say that word, let me say that phrase again. I want you to listen carefully. What do you think about it? What do you think about it? Okay. You might be able to hear that I pronounced certain words louder than other words. Okay. And Hadir has said something very nice here about reduction. In English, not every word is as important as the other. In that phrase, what do you think about it? The important words that you need to understand what I'm saying are what, think, and it. Okay. If I just said to you, what, think, it, you could probably understand that I'm asking you a question. What do you think about it? So the other words are there to make the sentence grammatically correct, but they're not the important words in the sentence. The important words are what, think, it. And as a result, the other words in that phrase become unstressed. And if I say it slowly, what do you think? Sorry, I'll say it again. What do you think about it? Do you, which is do you, those 2 words become weak words in English. The pronunciation of them changes into their unstressed form, which is how you want to use them the majority of the time. Okay, and we do that so that it's easier for you to put your attention on the important words. I'm going to give you a really powerful exercise that you can take away from this. And if you just take one thing from today's live pronunciation training, let it be this, okay? Because even if your English is hard to understand and unclear and you can't say English sounds and you have all these frustrations, if you do this one thing, you will still communicate much more effectively than if you don't do this one thing. The one thing is this: whenever you're going to say something, think about what are the important words in that thing that you're going to say, and then simply focus on making those words louder and then putting a pause in after you've said them. So to give you an example of that in context, if I said to you that same phrase again, what do you think about it? What do you think about it? That pause after think, it gives you time to think about the word that I've just said, think. Okay, what do you think about it? There's no pause after d, there's no pause after y, okay, but I'm putting a pause after the important word which is stressed, and immediately that will really put whoever you're talking to, it'll put their attention on that word, which means that even if you're not clear, your pronunciation is not clear, it's going to help your listener to focus on the words that are important. And an example that I give very frequently about this is if you ever watch a president or a prime minister or a politician in your country giving a speech, they will pause and pause and pause and pause and pause to make sure that you're focusing on the important words that they're saying so that you understand the message. Okay? Because 80 or 90% of what we say in English is just there to make it grammatically correct. But there's only a few words that are the really important words that we need to communicate clearly and effectively. Okay? So I hope that helps. That's the difference between intonation and stress. They're both very important, but they're two very different things. And I teach them both, very differently and very comprehensively in my program, which you can check out if you're interested. Just one tip I'll give you though for stress is whenever you look up the pronunciation of a word that you're not sure about in the dictionary, always identify the stressed syllable in that word, okay? Because, for example, another exercise I gave to my coaching community this week was to send me videos of them pronouncing the word enthusiastically. Enthusiastically. How many syllables are in that word? Enthusiastically, right? 7. But if you put the stress on the right syllable there, it makes it much easier to understand. So whenever you learn a new word or check the pronunciation of a word, check where the stress is. And that will really, really help. Okay? Because if I said to you, instead of saying enthusiastically, if I said enthusiastically, it's not very clear what I just said there. If I said I'm talking enthusiastically, it's not clear compared to if I said I'm talking enthusiastically, pause, about pronunciation. Okay? So does that make sense? Is that something that's nice and clear? I really want you to take what I'm giving you here and actually implement it, okay? All my one-to-one clients and my students who are in my course, when I give them advice, they go away and implement it. And as a result, they get better and better and better and better at speaking English every time, okay? And the thing is, because they've invested in it, they then consciously make an effort to do the work. And as a result of that, every person who is either in my coaching program or one-to-one students, they're getting really, really good results. Okay, so, and I'm just giving you here for free a huge amount of valuable advice. So just because you've not paid for this advice, don't just think it's not relevant. Okay, this is really valuable advice. And I highly recommend that you implement this if you want to dramatically feel more confident when you're speaking English. Okay, so Abdul, Furchamak said, you like my watch? Thank you very much, Furchamak. I love watches, and I always dreamt of having like a dream watch, and then I saved up for years and years and years, and then eventually I saw my dream watch. It was invented, and then I bought it. So this is what I'm wearing now to tell the time on. I'm glad you like it, Furchamak. I like it too. So there was just one other question I'm going to answer as a bonus tip. Okay. I forget because I've had a lot of comments here today. So Abdul asked, here we go. Abdul asked, do I have a podcast in Spotify that I can recommend? I don't have any podcasts that I can personally recommend. Generally, so here's the thing. Okay, when I was learning Portuguese and Japanese, And I was doing the shadowing method that I was explaining to you earlier, which for me was really effective. The reason why it was so effective is because I was listening to a podcast or little audio recordings that were designed for my level of those two languages. If I just turned on the Brazilian news or the Japanese news and tried to do the method of shadowing, it wouldn't have been effective for me because the level that they were speaking at was way higher than my level of those languages. Okay, so I mean, like, if you're not in my coaching program, what I recommend is in all my tutorials on YouTube where I teach a sound or a word, I put that word into a sentence. I recommend following along and shadowing that. Okay, you can do that for free on my YouTube channel. In my course, I've created hundreds of examples that you can shadow along to. Every word, every sound I've taught, I've put all of these things into sentences that you can follow along to at a slow pace and a medium pace and sometimes also a fast pace. So I've designed that specifically for people who are at this level who want to then, really raise their speaking and make their speaking much more clear and much more effective. So if you are interested in really you having a rhythm that's much more like a native speaker, if you can join the course, I would highly recommend it because it's all the content in there is designed specifically for your level of English. Okay, if you listen to the news or just two native speakers talking, it's not going to be anywhere near as effective as if you're listening to something that's a little bit slower and pointing out the things that you need to be aware of. When I was listening to podcasts in Japanese, I was listening to podcasts that were specifically designed for people at my level of the language. Okay, so that's what I recommend. Okay, if you can join the course, great. You get a 30-day money-back guarantee anyway, but also you then get my personal feedback on your pronunciation. I show you all the areas that you might not be aware of at the moment that you need to improve upon or that you might want to improve upon. And the feedback is really good. If you can't join the course, then obviously that's fine. I would recommend then watching my tutorials on YouTube and going through my tutorials on YouTube, and then everywhere where I put something in a sentence, shadowing that. Okay, that's the alternative way to do it. Okay, but if you do want a comprehensive start to finish end-to-end solution with your pronunciation, plus weekly group coaching calls where I get on and give you feedback and teach you, really exciting things, then join the course. You get a 30-day money-back guarantee, plus an initial pronunciation audit from me, where I actually go through your pronunciation and create you a plan, a step-by-step plan for how you should actually work on pronunciation to get the biggest results for you in the least amount of time. If you want to do that, sorry if you're seeing this backwards on Facebook, but go to how to speak English clearly.com. Okay, sorry it's backwards if you're watching on Facebook. It's how to speak English clearly.com. And that will take you to the information page about the coaching program. And you see everything that you get there, the weekly coaching calls, the feedback from me, and the course on intonation, connected speech, stress, everything's there. Okay, if you're interested. But for now, let's just see what we've got going on here. I'm going to have to head off in just a second because I'm actually about to do my weekly coaching call for my course students. And today we're looking at the three sounds, or, and R. For example, shirt, short, and shark. So I'm really looking forward to giving some one-to-one feedback to my course students on that. yeah, I'm not going to answer any more questions today. Okay, just simply because I need to just rest my voice for 15 minutes before I get started on my group call. Thanks everyone for joining today. Great to have you here. Just quickly, let me know in the comments now, what's been the number one thing that you're going to take away from this pronunciation training and actually implement so that you start speaking more clearly and feeling more confident when you speak? What's that one thing going to be? Because I often say this, I could stand here for 24 hours, 7 days a week, and teach you all the secrets to pronunciation. But if you don't then go away and implement them, it doesn't matter. What I'm doing just doesn't matter. Okay, so I want you to pick one thing or two things, but specifically one thing, and actively learn it over the next week. Watch this back. Watch the tutorials on YouTube and Facebook. I've got some different tutorials on both platforms, but on YouTube I've got over 100 pronunciation tutorials. That's going to get you results. Okay. Sagar asks, can you please tell us how much time it will take to grow an accent like yours? Well, the first thing to say, Sagar, on that very quickly is it's unlikely. I mean, if you want to sound identical to a native speaker, it will take you years and years and years. Okay, but if you want to just speak English clearly and confidently and sound very natural in English, you can do that in a few months if you have the right advice and you practice hard. I'll just finish this with a story. I've just finished working on Tuesday one-to-one with a client who I've been working with for 6 months. This man is a senior director in a very big international IT company, and he is a native Mandarin speaker, but he has to give presentations very frequently in English, and in his company are people from all over the world, so it's very important that he speaks clear English. And before we got started, whenever he had to give a presentation, he'd say that he'd be dreading it for 2 weeks. He'd be lying in bed, awake, not able to sleep for 2 weeks beforehand. We started working together, and within a few weeks of doing one-to-one work on his pronunciation, he said to me that what was happening is when he worked in a tall building, and when he used to have to get into the lift, if there were other native English speakers in the lift, he'd try and avoid getting into the lift to avoid having to have a conversation in English. He'd wait for the next lift. Within a few weeks, he said he felt confident to get into the lift and start a conversation with this person in the lift. And then we just finished working the other day, and he said that he feels so much more confident now. He no longer gets that crushing anxiety before he has to give an important presentation to, an international group of managers. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because he didn't want to sound like a native speaker. He wanted his English to not get in the way of his career. He wanted to feel confident speaking English. He wanted to speak English clearly, and he wanted to feel like himself in English when he was speaking. And as a result of the work we did, he now does that. Does he sound like me? No, but that was never his goal. His goal was to be a very clear and effective communicator that gets the respect of his colleagues when he's speaking and shows that he's a confident professional. So I never, I have met people that have given, their life to pronunciation that they sound very, very natural in it, like very, 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 almost like a native speaker. But unless you specifically want to learn pronunciation to sound like a native speaker, it's not something that I suggest making your goal, because it's a little bit unrealistic unless you're prepared to study it for years and years and years and years and years. Okay, but if you just want to speak English that helps you to grow your career, you just want to know that you're feeling confident and not having your pronunciation holding you back, then that's a completely different story, and you can do that in a few months. You can even feel confident in days or weeks just from working on the main things that are holding you back. And when you join my coaching program, the feedback I give you is a roadmap that for you to then be able to go and get a lot of those results on your own. Okay, so thanks everyone very much for joining today. Final thing I'll say in response to Maurice. Maurice said, do you recommend to speak slower for sounding clearer? If you can speak slower, yes, but more importantly, put lots of pauses in your English when you're speaking. Do those two things and you will sound a lot more clear when you speak. Zenny said, oh, thank you, Zenny. Zenny said, the personal plan, which is what I create for you when you join the course, is one of the most valuable things in the course, and the feedback too. Thank you, Zenny. I'm so glad, and I'm so pleased with your progress, all the progress that you've made in the short time that you've been in the course. You've done a really, really good job. And I'm looking forward to seeing you, hopefully, in 10 minutes' time on our coaching call. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend. I'm not sure when I'm going to do the next live, okay, because I'm taking some time off in December. If you subscribe to when you subscribe to my YouTube channel, make sure to turn notifications on if you want to get the notifications when I'm actually doing the lives, because I'm going to do I might do some more lives in December, but I might not do them with a lot of notice. I might just turn on the camera and go live. So if you want to get notified for that, make sure you've got your notifications turned on, and that way you won't miss out. Okay? Thanks so much, everyone, for watching. I've really enjoyed teaching all of this to you today. Everyone, you've done a great job. Take the advice, work on it, and I would love to hear how much clearer and more natural things are sounding by the next time that we speak. Okay? So have a great weekend all, and keep in touch, and I look forward to seeing you in the very near future. Okay? Thanks, Abdul. Thanks, Alicia. Thanks, Alex. Maurice, thank you. Sagar, Zenny, KK, Alberto, great having you all on here. Thanks a lot, and I'll speak to you soon. Just going to end this now. So thanks everyone for joining.